right. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining me in today. Really appreciate the time that you've taken to come and get yourself organized and see what's out there and what we can actually do here with online and digital as well. So I'm really excited to be here. My name is Doyle Buehler, and welcome to the digital road mapping session for the day, for what I'm calling Digital Strategy Day. Why is it that? Is because we really kind of need to think about how do we actually integrate some of these aspects of digital and strategy and that sort of thing as we get into things. So it's really important that we kind of step back a little bit. And I know we kind of get focused in on what we want to do and what we want to accomplish and how we want to accomplish it and that sort of thing. So it's really important that we just kind of step back and see how can we look at this problem, this solution at the end of the day, a lot more strategically. And sometimes it can be, very challenging, and sometimes it can be quite difficult as well. But it comes down to some fundamentals of how do we actually see this? How do we actually understand what it is that we want to be able to do and how we're able to do that as well? So I'm here to show you kind of these steps, and this is what I call a strategic roadmap as well. It kind of gives you the framework to be able to understand what pieces do I need? How can I actually use these pieces? Why are they important? And then a step-by-step plan as well. So if you're joining me on the session itself, please feel free to drop in any comments. And as I mentioned previously, I'd love to have you come up on stage at the end and you can ask questions. We can even have a round table or even some networking as well at the end. But please, the comment section is there to be able to ask questions. Please feel free to, if you want to join the session as well at the end. So for those who are watching live or on replay, please hashtag replay if you're watching on replay. And again, happy to answer your questions on Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever it is as well. One of the challenges with kind of live stream technology is that there still are some pieces missing. So if you are watching this on live stream, I don't have access to the actual comments. Actually, I probably can pull up a screen here. Maybe I'll see if I can do that to get the comments and questions live on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. So I'm not ignoring you if I don't answer the questions, but I'll go back and answer them as well. But please, I'd love to hear, your thoughts and your ideas as well as we get into this also. So just going to get things rolling here and share the screen. So the session is going to be broken up into three kind of parts. And the first one is kind of explaining what it is that is kind of driving this, right? Why is a roadmap important? Why is it important that we have our vision that allows us to see where we want to go and what we want to do and where we want to move to as well? So we need to understand sort of the back that. So then we have the pieces that we can actually say, well, if here's the big overarching problem, then how do we actually look at this? How do we reframe that? And that's part two, and that's going to be where I'm talking about the model that we're going to be using as well. And then the third part towards the end of the session is where I have some exercises, some worksheets and that sort of thing that you can go and you can actually, will be a lot more interactive towards the end as well. So that's kind of going to be how we structure it. And again, happy to answer questions along the way as well. Excuse me. So hopefully just a quick sound check. If you can hear me, if you can see me, please just say so in the comments, just so that I know that I'm not talking to myself all the way over here in Perth. Hey, Kellyanne, thank you. All right, so welcome everybody to the Digital Business Growth Pathway Strategy Roadmap Discovery Session, right? That's quite a mouthful, isn't it? But as we know, like, digital can be difficult as well, and working online and working with our businesses can do this also. So we want to make sure that we understand the challenge that's in front of us, and we understand the tools and the strategies and the tactics that we can actually use as well. So I like to put it out there to say, look, we are the digital challengers. So if you're in business right now, today, or you're thinking about going into business very, very soon, you're a digital challenger, right? Quite honestly. So my message to you is that we need to be able to sort of manage and deal with digital and online. And sorry, just my terminology, I might use digital more so than online. They're both the same, right? All I'm talking about is how do we actually utilize these tools and these opportunities for us, whether it's online or whether you call it digital or whatever, or it's just your business type thing. Sometimes we don't even actually have to put a name on it for that matter. But we are the digital challengers, right? Change your attitude, unfuck your head, make an honest, unsentimental accounting of your present condition. Prepare to be disappointed, Define what you want instead clearly. By clear, I mean precise and feasible. An unrealistic objective is sure to sabotage the process. Hit the books, try and error, inquire, risk, mimic, insist, resist, right? So make sure that you kind of point yourself in that right direction to be able to understand that, hey, it's not easy out there. How can I make it easier? What can I actually do to be able to understand these pieces that I need to be able to do that as well? So ask yourself, are you stepping up? Are you engaging? Are you kind of grabbing it by the horn, so to speak, and actually doing something with it? And to me, it's a tremendous opportunity that we can work with, but we have to be able to have these pieces in place to understand that as well. So December 2021, right? Where to from here? Where are you going from here? What are you going to do? How are you going to put your business in place as well? So my name is Doyle Buehler. I've been in the digital online industry for about 20 years. I left an aerospace career, decided that business was my thing, took my MBA and said, hey, let's build some startups in the e-commerce world. And I built one of the fastest growing companies in Canada, the top 40 fastest growing. And then decided, hey, guess what? I love to be in a different country in Australia. And that's how I actually got here as well. But my mission, I guide digital challenger businesses in navigating the daunting digital economy and overcoming the fear, anxiety, and resistance of operating as a true digital first company in the digital decade. I create digital pathfinders, entrepreneurs, leaders, and executives who want to make a bigger impact, get better results, and find better customers online so the world knows who you are and wants to do more business with you. I've written the book called Breakthrough, one of my two books, Breakthrough rather, basically dealing with some of the elements of digital strategy and how to put these pieces together as well. So if you ever get a chance, grab a copy. I'd love to hear what you think as well. So as I said, there's going to be 3 parts here. The first one, just kind of explaining the roadmap, the journey so far, and then getting into the model. And then finally, we'll get sort of hands-on and say the plug and play portion of it as well to say, hey, these are the things that you need to outline quickly and assuredly know what exactly it is where you're headed as well. So why do we want to be doing this, right? Well, to start with, the opportunity is definitely there. To begin with, we all know that whether you want to do business from, around the corner, a couple blocks away, to across the state or the city or whatever the case may be, across the country and even around the world, right? We've got a tremendous opportunity to be able to connect with our customers anywhere, at any time, at any place. And never in the history of the world have we ever been able to do that, right? Anytime, any place, anywhere. It's like there's no limits, quite honestly, in terms of what you can do. But the challenge is we need to make sure that we've built a foundation to be able to do that as well. And some businesses, or rather a lot of businesses around the world, have decided, despite COVID, that there is a tremendous opportunity to be able to be had as well. And the ones that embrace that are the ones that have seen very, very significant growth over the last 18 plus months. They made a decision to say, I need to work with online in a much better fashion, right? So it's a matter of how can we actually do that? How can we leverage those pieces in place to be able to do that for every business, right? And you don't need to be like a super extra genius kind of thing, a guru or whatever, an expert. All you need to be able to do is understand the basic principles, the strategic side of things, and then you can actually make a lot better decisions and the way you move forward and how you interact and engage with people as well. So it's really important that you see how these pieces fit together as well. So it matters that we can actually do these things also. So the why, right? We want to get over the obstacles, the pain, the discovery, or rather the journey. The discovery is where we want to be able to start. And it's not a matter of, I talk about rethink and reinventing and that sort of thing. It's not so much changing everything that you do. Like, you don't have to wipe the slate clean. It comes down to how can you actually use what you're already offering, right? The value is already there. You're already sitting on your mountain of value. And it's a matter of how do we translate this? How do we transform it into something that allows you to be able to do that with these pieces online as well? So we want to make sure that we have these opportunities, we have these capabilities as well. but we have to get over this pain, obstacles, and frustrations. And I've broken it down into 3 steps as well that allow us to do that, which I'm going to be getting into much more detail. But we want to be able to understand those pieces and where do we want to go. And I'll be talking about this soon, but it's called, like, our goal, our promise, our call to action. Like, what is it that we want to be able to accomplish here? Where is it that we're heading? And I say digital promised land, and in some cases it's this, faraway land that we've never seen, and it never actually comes true as well. But, something to think about, like, what do you want to be able to do with it? And that is how we can make it a little bit more tangible, is by saying, this is where I want to go. This is how I want to be able to develop the business. This is how I want to be able to develop my customers as well. So what is your digital promised land look like? If you've got a chance, please put it in the comments. Would love to hear what you have to say. Excuse me. Where we want to be able to go, what I consider the digital promised land is being able to future-proof your business, being able to create an agile business, right? One that has some options to what you're doing and how you're doing it, and then being able to grow your reach and global connections as well. So this is what I feel is important to what we call a digital promised land, making sure we have these capabilities: future-proof, agile business, and then growing reach and global connections as well. So it allows us those opportunities to be able to say, hey, I don't have to sit, in my small little business around the block and that sort of thing as well. So cool. Thanks, Bonnie. My aim is to serve chiropractors. Perfect. Right? What does that look like, though? Like, what is it that you're going to be doing to be able to do that? And again, we'll be getting a lot into this as well, but great question. And thank you for pointing that out. Let's see. Got a few here. Lynn, helping entrepreneurs in my country to get more connections and tools to grow their business. Perfect, right? That's what a lot of this is about, is how do we actually understand those pieces for ourselves so that we can then help others also. So it's really important we do that too. So, and then Bonnie, I want to start interviewing and leverage LinkedIn Lives and be able to repurpose the content. Yeah, absolutely. That's a significant journey to be able to go on as well. So it's really important that, we understand those pieces, we put them together, and we put them in a roadmap as well, so that we know what we need to be doing and when as well, because otherwise we don't actually know where we're going. And the metaphor I use is like, would you get on an airplane? Would you just pop on an airplane and pop out somewhere at the other end of the flight, kind of thing? And we don't necessarily think about these things. We don't necessarily say, well, when I get into my car, like, I know where I'm going. When I get on a bus or whatever, a train, I know where I'm going. I know what stop I'm getting off. I go buy my ticket and away I go. I don't just arbitrarily, I don't just spontaneously, and not that spontaneous is not good, but I don't just spontaneously go somewhere. And yes, that can be fun and exciting, but you know what? Guess what? We do need sort of that foundation to say this is where we're going. And I find that in business, oftentimes we don't actually place that. We don't actually put that down. We don't actually say, this is my destination. And this is where the clear call to action, your promise comes into place, your BHAG, as well as what sometimes it's called your big, hairy, audacious goal. So we need to know where we're going. Otherwise, we don't know when we're going to get there, right? So it's really important that we set the stage to be able to do that with these things, so that we can understand the steps that we need to take. So I call it a business GPS, a growth pathway strategy. And there's a reason for that, is that if you're going somewhere, even as simple in your car, like the first time you go there, you'll punch it in and you'll follow along and you'll be very focused on where it's telling you to turn and that sort of thing. And you get to your destination, which is fantastic. After you've gone there a couple times, you might just turn it on and click it, and you kind of have a better idea of where it is that you're headed and what sort of road stops you're going to be passing and that sort of thing as well. After a while, it becomes intuitive. You know exactly where you're going. You don't need the GPS. You can still use it, or you can just kind of follow along on the map to see how far you have to go and that sort of thing too. The point is that it becomes intuitive. So once you lay the foundation down for your business with a growth pathway strategy, it allows you to see it intuitively. Okay, I need to do this next, and I need to stop at this road stop next, and that sort of thing. So it's really important that we lay that foundation very, very quickly. So I'd love to hear from you now. How do you get business done? A lot of us are kind of a mix between offline and 100% online as well. The goal here is not to be 100% online, unless that's, of course, what your goal is. But for a lot of businesses, there still is obviously that human connection. It's going to events, it's getting out there, it's meeting people. That's perfectly fine. That's part of it. But what we need to understand is that these are the pieces that are really important to be able to build that foundation. If we know where we are now, we know where we can go to. So there's that gap that we need to transition. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you consider yourself being from an offline business to an online business? And this is kind of your capabilities. If you can do everything like an e-commerce business, how you have sales, you have live streaming, you have all of that all online, then obviously you're closer to the 100% online. If you just kind of have a website, maybe a Facebook page, then you're probably more than likely mostly offline as well, in the 30% range. And this is important because one of the graphics coming up shows you the difference here, and not to put you in a bad place, but we need to think differently. We need to be able to think of how do we actually put these pieces together, these digital online pieces together, so that we can, gain on that opportunity as well. So if you wouldn't mind, in the comments or on the comment section or that sort of thing, please tell me where you are. How do you get business done? Are you 100% online? Are you 100% offline? Right? And this is all part of our digital journey as well. So now, one of the other significant things that's really important here is, what does your customer look like? Your customer journey, rather. What does your customer journey look like? So we can be very transactional. And if you're an e-commerce site, if you're a shop, sometimes that's all you need. I just need some bread and some eggs and off I go kind of thing. I don't want to make this into some miraculous transformational journey. But the point is that if you can kind of create that experience around that bread and butter and milk, guess what? Businesses are going to come to your shop much more often, or they're going to return to your shop much more often, because they understand that it is an experience. It is fun. It is interesting. It is engaging. It is, it's all of these pieces together that allow us to be able to associate with others, to create those opportunities. And yeah, it might be just going out for bread and milk, but it's you as the business owner that creates that experience, creates that journey. So are you transactional or are you transformational? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd love to kind of hear where you're at in this stage as well. And some of us, we're in the same space too, and we don't necessarily need to change that. But how can we identify where it is, what we need to improve on as well? Are we just about delivering a commodity rather, eggs, milk, bread, or are we creating kind of a journey of what do you do with this eggs, milk, and bread as well? Something more transformational. How do you actually create, amazing recipes? How do you actually, mix them together? How do you create meals to feed the world with that? So that's kind of the journey that I'm talking about as well, is being able to do that, being able to create that transformational journey. Because if we're not creating an experience, and then people will just go buy it from somewhere else. Online, we're one click away from our competitors. One little click, and that's all it takes for them to be able to go somewhere else. So unless you have that ability to create that experience, that remarkable digital experience worth remembering, people are going to go somewhere else. It's plain and simple. The online world is shifting. We've been focusing on how many clicks we get, but we need to shift our strategies to making every click count, right? It doesn't matter if you have 10,000 people in a Facebook group. It doesn't matter if you have 100,000 visitors every day, unless you're driving sales, unless you're doing fundamental, unless you're taking those people on a journey of transformation, that they're not going to stick around as well. So it's important to make these clicks count, right? Maybe it is a group of only 100, but what kind of interaction, what kind of engagement, what kind of journey of transformation are you taking them on? You don't need a massive audience to be able to deliver your knowledge, your expertise, your training, whatever the case may be. You need a small audience that's engaged. And how do you do that? You need to look at, again, the experience, how you put your pieces out there, how you understand what they're looking for, and a whole bunch of other things as well that allows you to be able to do that. So I talked earlier about, grabbing onto that, grabbing onto that opportunity. And those businesses that did, thanks for the laugh. Yeah, I pulled my microphone cord and it grabbed something as I pulled it. Anyway, hopefully you can still hear me. Everybody can hear me okay? Yes? I didn't unplug my microphone. Perfect. All right. Thank you. So what I wanted to say was that the opportunity has been quite immense for those businesses that have really fully engaged with online and with digital and created that opportunity of digital adoption or digital penetration, right? What is the capability of the business to be able to offer their products and service online? That's basically what I'm talking about here, is how can a business enable themselves to be able to be available online, not just through a website, not just through a Facebook group. Like let's be clear, that's kind of an introductory type. That's your initial barrier to entry at these stages. Now we need to focus on that experience. But if we look here in the last 18 months, we've seen a 35% growth of those businesses who have said, hey, wait a sec, I may not have been 100% online before, but I was able to understand how can we actually grow this business online. And the ones that have done that have seen that 35% growth. And if you spread that out over 5 years, they've seen that growth. They've seen normal growth compressed from 5 years and compress it into 18 months, right? So they've seen a tremendous amount of growth over the last year and a half. And that should be really a wake-up call to everybody to say, hey, if you're not fully engaged online, if you're not fully kind of creating that transformational journey through this tool of online, you need to take a much harder look. You're missing the point, right? Yes, we can have a business, and yes, we can deliver it online. And no, it's not just, a Zoom session and that sort of thing. We need to build this roadmap to allow us to do that. And not everybody knows exactly how to do it or what to do or, what steps to take next. And really that's what this is about, is how can we actually deliver a roadmap to say, these are the steps that I need to go through. These are the pieces that I need to understand. And this is the journey that I'm taking myself and my audience as I get into this. And this really all comes down to what I call digital leadership. And this is, again, I'm going to get into it shortly, but this is just understanding that we don't need to be an expert. We don't need to spend 20 years in the industry to say, hey, you can do this, or here, this is a strategy that will work. We need to be able to understand and obviously utilize that, but we need to be able to understand, where do I sit right now and what do I know about this subject of online? And what it does is it really allows you to coordinate your resources. It allows you to understand, okay, well, what do I need? What don't I need? What may I need later, but not right now? And so if we can understand these parts, that's where we can actually make some progress as well. So I call it digital leaderships, but how can we actually use it to become, a better, what I call a chief expedition officer, right? How can we actually make it to define how we do business differently as well? So right now it's about 20 to 30% digital adoption penetration. That's about it, right? Where would you like to be? So if you got a second, put that in the chat, or in the comments, where would you like to be? What kind of zone do you feel that you'd be comfortable in, so that you fully understand what needs to happen? And again, you don't have to be a digital genius. You don't have to be that expert or that guru, but you do need to know enough to make those decisions, that you can leverage those resources. You can leverage those tools. You know when to use the tools and the tactics and that sort of thing. So fundamentally, it comes down to that digital leadership, that strategic mindset to say, hey, how do I know these pieces work? And how can I make these pieces fit together as well? And if we're not, then we need to look at that. How do we make that better? How do we understand that? So what's better, an elephant in a tub or an elephant in the room? The answer to that joke is you can manage an elephant in a tub, I think, a little bit easier, or at least in this case. But my point is that right now we're kind of, the elephant in the room is a lot of big stuff around digital, right? Ads don't work, funnels are annoying, cookies are confusing, and Apple's kicking out cookies, reaches down, and as a result, great businesses get missed. And you need to ask yourself, is this just Facebook or indicative of what's to come with all online platforms? And what will you do? So again, this is where we need to understand that core problem to be able to say, here's the proper solution. Here's the roadmap. If Facebook shut down today or tomorrow, which I think it did, remember it did a couple months ago, what would you do? Like, how would your business survive? Or are you putting, the proverbial all eggs in one basket? With a sound strategy, you have that opportunity to be able to see where it is that you're going. So if there's a detour, guess what? All you do is navigate around that detour. Simple. So if you don't have a roadmap, you kind of get stuck at that detour to go, well, where am I supposed to go? I'm not actually sure. I didn't know where. And then the construction worker comes over with his stop sign and says, hey, where are you headed? And you go, I don't know. Where am I headed? Let me think about that, right? And then he'll look at you kind of strange. Well, why are you driving down this road if you don't know where you're going? Fun little thing. But the fact is that if we hit a detour along the way, if we don't know where it is that we're heading, we're not going to get there. We're going to be even more lost than before. So again, build up a strategy, build up a foundation that allows you that capability to maneuver around things and understand how these things play together and what you need to do next as well. So who would like an elephant as a pet, by the way? I think they'd be fun when they're small, but as they get bigger, no, I don't think so. Unless you could do something. You could take them on drives. Maybe they could drive you to your destination. Yeah, there you go. So I talked earlier about digital genius, right? So what is that? Well, it's broken down into awareness and knowledge of online and skills and leadership in online as well. So obviously, look, we want to be in this zone. We want to take that ability to say, I've got clarity, I've got certainty, understanding of online to grow and scale within the business as well. So I know the tools that I need, and I know when to use them, and I know how to use them. I don't have to be the one who implements that. Like, let's be honest, there's people out there that can do that perfectly and better than you and better than me and all that kind of stuff. Utilize those people, but you need to know, again, give them a roadmap, give them direction to say, we need to do this. This is the campaign that we're doing. These are the objectives. This is where we're headed. This is how we're going to do it. These are the tools that we need. Go for it. Let's build this thing. We kind of obviously need to be out of this disruptive zone. And we thought leader guru zone. It's good ideas, but little knowledge to grow scale within business, within online. And we don't want to be that overly technical person either. We need to understand the bigger pieces of the business that allow us to be able to do that. So online, but can't fully implement within business because it's not all connected. And there's three components that I'm going to be talking about. It's how do we position ourselves strategically? It's how do we actually use the technology that we have at our fingertips to be able to understand and implement? And then how do we actually connect our clients, right? Our competition, rather, connect our clients. And make the competition irrelevant is what I want to say. So that's really important that we understand these pieces to be able to do that so that we can move forward. So again, you don't need to be the super duper digital Einstein kind of thing. You just need to know how to put these pieces in place to be able to get to where you want to go. So just before we check into the next session, are you really committed here, right? Where are you in your business right now? So, you don't have to share these, but ask yourself, where are you in your business right now? What are you going to be doing differently? Are you committed to kind of delivering that experience, delivering that remarkable digital experience worth remembering? Are you committed? So 100% commitment is easier than 90% commitment. When you fully commit to something, the decision has been made, right? So being a business with online isn't easy, right? We all know that. It's every day it's a struggle, but there's a reason why we're still in business, right? And it's because we understand we're able to adapt to change. We're able to adapt and we're able to understand change in strategy as well. And how can we put these pieces together? So we want to simplify things, right? And you'll see that the symbol here is known as the delta symbol in engineering and mathematics, not in COVID, but and it's a measure of change, and it's a measure of change over time. And this is a whole other kind of session that I go to, and as well. And if you're interested, please let me know. But the symbol for change is the delta, and that actually is what simplifies what we're going to be doing and how we can actually see things a little bit differently as we dig into this as well. Now, just before we get started, now strategies, not everything is where it seems to be, right? Not everything is where it seems to be. There, back in World War II, when they're sending bombers and fighters out to fight the battles in Europe from the UK, and that sort of thing, they obviously, not everybody unfortunately came back, but the planes that came back, they wanted to be able to say, well, how do we actually understand the problem here? We send planes over the English Channel, not all of them come back. So the first idea was, well, let's understand, well, what's happening with them. We get the pilot reports and that sort of thing, but let's look at the aircrafts. And what they were able to do was identify all these little points, basically bullet holes, where the plane was hit with a bullet from ground fire or air fire, or whatever the case may be, right? But the plane's making it back, they had this typical pattern, right, around the wingtips, the tail, around the center section of the wingtips and that sort of thing, and which is great. It's because now, if you think about it, well, this is a good understanding of it. Let's put up some armor plating and to kind of help these planes, come back. So what would a typical solution be? Well, it's like, let's put armor plating where the bullet holes are, around the wingtips, the tail, the center fuselage, and that sort of thing. Let's put armor plating there. What they neglected to discover, first off, was that this wasn't the actual problem. This wasn't the solution. What was actually happening is that the aircraft that weren't coming back were basically had bullet holes in these sections of the aircraft, right? The center section, the cockpit section, the empennage section, the engine section. So these aircraft that had bullet holes basically being shot at weren't making it back. They weren't able to fly back. So they went into the theater, they did their thing, they got shot in these critical locations. So guess what? They didn't actually make it back. So as sad as that is, the lesson was the armor doesn't need to go where the bullet holes are. And this is fundamental strategic lesson, right? It's not always as simple as saying, okay, well, this is how I see it. This is the solution. The armor needed to go where the bullet holes were not, okay, on the engines and around the cockpit and around the empennage and the main wing section as well. And this is what I call the missing bullets, right? It's your strategy. It's not always obvious what is the solution, but it's remarkably simple once you see it as well. Once you have these pieces in place, it's like, oh, wow, how did we not see that before? How did we not see an understanding what was the real problem here? So just to keep that in mind, it's like, this is how we can help solve problems in terms of what do we need strategically to be able to look at this. We need information from our customer. We need information about what they're doing and how they're doing it. And we need to kind of open our mind, right? Again, the strategic mindset to say, this is how we can solve this problem a little bit better. It doesn't mean that it's the ultimate solution, but what it does mean is that, look, it gives us that little bit of roadmap. It gives us that little bit of extra runway. It gives us those little bits of opportunity as well to be able to move our business forward also. So again, I said being a business online isn't easy, but let's simplify it. Let's talk about change, and let's see how we can actually make change a lot easier to be able to work with as well. So the business journey online, is it a safari or is it an expedition? You probably heard me say that word, expedition. Ultimately, there is a huge difference, and this is where we can kind of categorize where we can fit ourselves too into business. So a lot of times, typically what's a safari? It's basically getting in a ute or a truck or whatever the case may be, and going watching some lions and some tigers rather, and eating some zebras, that sort of thing. So it's very kind of it's watch and look and see what happens kind of thing. But if we take that one step further, what's the next level past the safari? It's an expedition, right? And this is fundamentally different because what are we doing in an expedition? We're discovering and we're doing. We're actually getting in there. And if we take a look at, those expeditions of the past, what were they? They were massive adventures. They were massive, opportunities for those explorers, for that team. And yes, some ended in tragedy, but the point is that they wouldn't have even gone if they didn't believe that there was something that they could radically improve, right? The moon landing, exploration of the Arctic and the Antarctica, the first flight across the Atlantic, all of these things that are very significant. It was a journey, right? It was a battle. Every day was a challenge. Every day was something was changing, something was being done differently, right? But fundamentally, what did they have? They had a clear strategy. They knew exactly where they were going. They were going to the North Pole. They were going to the South Pole, right? They were flying from England to Canada, that sort of thing. They knew they had a very specific route. They understood where they were going. They knew what was coming ahead of them. They could at least, look at the possibilities of what might happen and what might not happen. But without that journey, remember I said earlier about, getting stopped by the construction guy going around a detour. It's like, why are you on this road? Where are you going? I don't know. Right? That's not an expedition. So we need to be very, very clear where it is that we're headed. How do we actually create this expedition? And I'd, put it out there to say, look, if I could offer you an all expenses paid, everything ready, all your food, and let's go to Mount Everest tomorrow, would you do it? Would you? It'd be fun, but I would gander guess that most of you, almost everybody, would say, no, I'm not ready for it. And you're perfectly right. You're not ready for it. I'm not ready for it, even though I think I might be, right? Even if everything was prepared. So what's important here is that we need to understand this. How do we actually get prepared? How do we understand these pieces that are important to us, and how do we actually put them together so that they work for us? Because if they're not working for us, they're working against us. And at least then we would be able to understand what those challenges are that we see and how we do them. So getting yourself ready for this expedition is very important. But how do we do that? We have to look at the strategy and this roadmap. We have to be able to get to this base camp first, right? Before we can even think about getting up to the summit. So a lot of people use the metaphor, well, let's just go to the summit, right? It's easy peasy, right? Well, guess what? We're not even ready for that. So we have to take a step back and say, how do we plan for that? How do we build the strategy to be able to get there as well? How do we do that? That's what a roadmap does. So what do we want? Where do we want to go? We want to be able to play a bigger game online. We want to smash revenue, roadblocks, and plateaus, break a glass ceiling with growth as well. And fundamentally, we want to get to this position. And I talked about your call to action, and I'll be referring to this as well. Your promise is amplify growth through online. So that's my promise, is that I want to help you amplify your growth through online. And these are the roadmaps that I'm going to show you that allow you to do that. What's holding you back from your mission? Doing what you know you want to do. A lot of things, and I'm going to get into this shortly, but create and capture new demand, develop uncontested market space, and make competition irrelevant is super important here. What are your biggest fears of online? I'd love to hear you. I've kind of been keeping track over the years. What makes things really, really difficult? Or if only I could remove this, what would that do to me? And I'd love to hear it in the comments or in the chat or whatever the case may be. What is it that is maybe not fearful, but scary or misunderstood, or, doesn't make sense, or wish I could do better, that sort of thing. I'd love to be able to understand what you feel that is for you. I've kind of captured a lot of these and categorized them and grouped them just to kind of make it a little bit easier. But I would love to hear what you have in terms of what are your biggest fears of online. It could be anything. It could be tech. It could be strategy. Could be, not knowing exactly what it is that you need to do, or not sure when to put it in a tool, or when to, or how to use a tool. So I'd love to be able to hear what's important and what you feel is holding back for you. So what are the 3 biggest obstacles and pain of operating your business online? And these are the ones that I've kind of categorized. And again, I'd love to see the difference in, what exactly it is that you feel is your obstacle and frustration. Number one, no impact and no traction. Number two, no resources, wasting time and money. And number three, no organization, no structure, and a fair bit of confusion and overwhelm as well.